Hi, Mark King here, and here's an interesting story about, the Common Core. Um, but the Common Core is basically a standard that's been adopted in a lot of states. I think it was pushed by Obama, but it was really Bill Gates was also heavily involved in the Common Core, right? So it's essentially a way of teaching kids, essentially, but I okay. So like I said, I was a teacher. I came after the Common Core, so I just know what people have told me before the Common Core how they enjoyed it a lot better. They enjoyed because they allowed more freedom for the teacher. If you do not know, the Common Core was pushed to artificially basically close the gap between the races in terms of success, and it also meant to close the gender gap in the math. Again, historically, males are better at math, and there's a differential in scores between races. So these evil people. Here's the thing, right? So these things are natural. They are all these differences are natural. They're innate. They're biological. It's nature and evolution, history, God, whatever. You only way you can close these gaps is to stop somebody from basically achieving their potential. That's really it. So what you see in education system is they tend to push things towards girls in an attempt to drop the scores of the boys, and they have done what their mission was since the 70s. The feminist groups, for example, they have absolutely like crushed boys in the school system. Um, Partially through the breakup of the the family structure. Anyway, so this article is study historic drops in U.S. reading and math scores since Common Core debacle. So some of the weird things I have to done. I've done a first grade before, and you have to teach them algebra in the first grade, and it's like the minds haven't grasped certain concepts. All right, from what I've seen, it's near impossible for them to fully grasp these concepts. It's introduced too early. Anyway, a study released Monday by the Boston-based Pioneer Institute reveals a historic drop in the national reading and math scores among U.S. students since adopting the Common Core curriculum standards a decade ago. These people should be fired, investigated, and then tried. They are horrible, and any of the supporters should also be investigated and tried. They are horrible. They push this identity politics nonsense into the school system, and you get American kids doing worse and worse and worse each year. And this is actually with teachers being told that there better not be a difference between uh, different races of students. So teachers are doing everything they can to try to prop up the test scores. Nearly a decade after the states adopted the Common Core, the empirical evidence makes it clear that the national standards have yielded underwhelming results for students, said Pioneer executive Jim Sturgis in a statement. The proponents of this expensive, legally questionable policy initiative have much to answer for. The study, titled Common Core Debacle, authored by the educational policy researchers Theodore Rebarber, asserts shocking trends in American student performance. Math and reading skills. The creation of the U.S. education system 4 years ago recommends reevaluation, federal involvement. Again, you don't want the government involved in the school system because the government will essentially push loyalty towards the state rather than the parents, and loyalty towards uh, basically Marxism. Okay, that's what they try to push. Okay, uh, let's continue. Supporters of the Common Core, however, touted the Obama era federally incentivized standards with rigorous and level the playing field. Again, leveling playing field, they're upset that certain kids, let's say from urban areas, don't achieve kids from suburban areas. That's essentially it. And you can read between lines what I'm really saying. And they have admitted this, right? This is them pushing it. So let's read the quote here. High standards that are consistent across states provide teachers, parents, and students with a set of clear explanations to ensure that all students have skills and knowledge necessary to succeed in college, career, and life upon graduation from high school, regardless of where they live. The standards promote equity. He means equality by ensuring all students are well prepared to collaborate and compete with their peers in the United States and abroad. Barber observed, however, that while national fourth and eighth grade reading scores were rising at a half a point each year from 2003 to 2013, since that time reading scores have dropped. Okay. Again, it's like in the school system. Okay, so here's the thing, right? So what I've noticed is that they try to get everything towards feminism. I'm not. Again, this is like my experience. So girls will tend to read better naturally also, and you're making this compounding worse by pushing these feminist stories about victimization. You also push a lot of especially in February, you push a lot of divisive things into the school system, and this creates a basically a circle of blame. You know, instead of blaming themselves or being better parents, it's always someone else's fault. Okay, so the lowest performing students, those readers who struggle the most, have made no progress in reading from the first NAPA administration almost 30 years ago, she added. And I guess this is Peggy, Dr. Peggy Carr. Anyway, Survey Barber also noted U.S. schools children have suffered from poor quality of Common Core. Let's read this quote here. Dissatisfied with the pace of improvements, most states were persuaded to set aside their own efforts and promise of a single set of national curriculum standards. The Common Core substantive criticism of the national standards, especially by a group of scholars and experts across with the Pioneer Institute, found not to be internationally competitive, weakened literary content, and based on misguided progressive instructional assumptions and dogmas. In response, Common Core proponents mostly circle the wagons and refuse to address the substantive criticism. Again, this is one of the things I notice about these modern academics. They don't take criticism very well, and they always point blame to somebody or something else. So they always try to find a straw man. Okay. So in the wake of Common Core debacle, the National Organization of Parents have risen and calling for the end of federal government in education. Absolutely. One of the best ways I've found to teach kids, I've observed this and done this myself. Again, not all kids, right? But I find what works well, a teacher take the life experience and use stories to basically explain academic work while doing it. This is what I found, but places I've been, it's just they don't want to hear it. They don't want to think outside the box because a lot of them are forced to. Unfortunately, they're forced to it, and some of them are just are exactly like the Common Core. They're these brainwashed individuals who want to push identity politics, and if somebody doesn't succeed, it's not that it's not the kids themselves, it's not the parents, it's the system itself. The system is against it. The system is against the kids. And I've been to like charter schools, and charter schools are usually like in really tough areas. You get my drift. What I'm saying, the kids are absolutely spoiled. I mean, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It was like they've basically been given everything, and so much money is spent on these charter school kids, yet they can't achieve. And basically from an early age who's gonna fail and succeed in life. You know it from first grade on, second grade. You know these things. You see who's actually trying, who has a really poor attitude, and this will continue throughout life. You already see who's gonna be. I'm more serious. You already see who's gonna be the baby mamas and not early on. This is what I've witnessed, okay? Anyway, coalition, serious conversations it'll never happen as long as you have this ideology that's wrapped up in Marxism involved in the media, in the government. You have the ideas wrapped up in the education system and in Hollywood, okay? Those are your enemies. Anyway, I thought this was really interesting. Again, this is what we all know. Common Core is a failure. And it really it really hurts those who can achieve. That's the thing. You're going to hold back those who can do well for those who can't, and it's wrong. It's absolutely wrong. You know, again, I've had some really bad experiences I've talked about, and it's sad. You know, the way some of these kids treat men, especially in the school system. Some of these boys of a certain urban background, they despise men, absolutely despise men. The only voice to listen to is somebody who looks like them, but of a female nature. All right, so I found this really interesting. I hope this picks up more steam. It's by Breitbart, and it was by Dr. Susan Berry, and it's a worthwhile read. Basically, I covered it, but it's it's good. You know, it's a really good article, and I'm glad it was covered. All right, guys, take care. Hope you like it, share, save, subscribe, whatever. Thumbs up. You know the story. Bye.